Your air ducts were never the problem. If you've ever smelled something musty in your house, called a company, and paid $300, $400, or $500 to get your ducts cleaned, you almost certainly paid to fix the wrong thing. There's a 2-foot tube sitting right next to your air handler that almost nobody's ever looked at. That's actually where the smell is coming from. And the fix isn't a $500 service call, it's a $3 bottle that's probably already sitting in your bathroom cabinet right now. Hospitals use a version of this exact chemical to disinfect entire HVAC systems. The EPA has quietly said for years that routine duct cleaning doesn't even do what these companies claim it does. So today I'm going to show you exactly where this tube is, the trick that clears it in under a minute, and 10 other things the duct cleaning industry really doesn't want getting out. Starting with the one that made me stop paying for this stuff altogether. First, we got to talk about what the EPA actually says, because this is the part that blows people's minds. Every duct cleaning ad you've ever seen is built on one assumption: dirty ducts equal dirty air equal you getting sick. Sounds logical, right? Well, the EPA, the actual federal agency in charge of this stuff, has published guidance saying there's no conclusive evidence that routine duct cleaning improves your health, reduces dust in your home, or saves you money on energy bills. The agency that's supposed to protect your indoor air quality is on record saying the thing an entire industry is built on selling you doesn't have proof behind it. And it gets more specific than that. The EPA lays out exactly 3 situations where cleaning your ducts actually makes sense: visible mold growth on the hard metal parts of your system, a vermin infestation like rodents or insects living in there, or so much dust and debris built up that it's literally blowing particles into your living room. That's it. 3 conditions. If none of those apply to you, the EPA is straight up saying a cleaning isn't going to do anything measurable for you. But somehow every duct cleaning company on the planet is telling homeowners they need this done every couple years no matter what. Yeah, something doesn't add up. So why does this keep happening? That brings us to the next thing they don't want you thinking about too hard: the industry's own trade group. It's called NADCA, the National Air Duct Cleaners Association, and it's basically the club that duct cleaning companies belong to. NADCA recommends homeowners get their ducts cleaned every 3 to 5 years. Sounds reasonable on paper. Except NADCA is made up of the exact same companies that profit every time you book that appointment. That's not an independent health authority telling you what your body needs. That's a trade association telling you how often to buy their members' service. It's like asking a used car salesman how often you should buy a new car. Of course he's going to have a number ready for you, and of course that number is going to line up conveniently with his commission schedule. Now here's where it gets a little sneaky, because a lot of these companies aren't just relying on a marketing calendar, they're relying on your eyes. This is the part homeowners talk about the most once they figure it out. Some techs will bring a little camera, stick it down into your ductwork, and show you a live feed on a screen of what looks like an absolute disaster zone in there. Thick dust, debris, the whole nightmare. And look, sometimes that's real. But industry critics and plenty of former techs have pointed out that camera footage can be manipulated, staged with debris that wasn't originally there, or just filmed at the dirtiest possible angle to make an average system look like a biohazard. You're sitting there watching a screen, feeling grossed out, and reaching for your wallet before you've even had a second to think about whether any of that dust was actually making you sick in the first place. That's not health and safety. That's a sales tactic dressed up as one. But now, this next one, this is the big one. This is the one the title's about. This is the $400 to $800 mistake most people are making right now without even realizing it. When your house smells musty, when your air conditioning smells like a wet gym sock, every time it kicks on, your brain automatically blames the ducts because that's where the air is coming from. Makes sense on the surface, but in the vast majority of cases, that smell isn't coming from your ductwork at all. It's coming from a little plastic tube called the condensate drain line. This thing runs off your air conditioner's evaporator coil, and it's constantly wet, constantly warm, constantly dark, which is exactly the environment algae and mold love to grow in. Over time, that line gets a slimy buildup inside it, water backs up, and that smell gets pulled right into your airstream every time the system runs. It smells exactly like a dirty duct. It is not a dirty duct. And here's the part that should genuinely make you a little annoyed. This is a problem you can fix yourself in your own house for around $3 with a bottle of plain 3% hydrogen peroxide from the pharmacy. You find the drain line near your indoor air handler. You pour a cup of hydrogen peroxide straight down it. You let it sit, and it oxidizes and breaks down that algae and mold buildup on the spot. No fumes, no corrosion, no truck showing up in your driveway. People are paying a full duct cleaning invoice, again, average around $390, up to $800 depending on your home, to solve a problem that a $1 pharmacy bottle handles in about 90 seconds. Now you might be sitting there thinking, hold on, is hydrogen peroxide even legit for this? Or is this one of those sketchy internet life hacks that sounds smart but doesn't actually do anything? Fair question. And the answer might surprise you because this isn't some fringe TikTok trick. Hospitals actually use industrial versions of this exact chemical. There's documented research out of a hospital complex in northern India where they used hydrogen peroxide fogging to fully decontaminate an entire air conditioning duct system, and it worked faster and cheaper than the older method using formalin, with no adverse effects reported. Commercial HVAC sanitizing products that are EPA registered as antimicrobial treatments are, in a lot of cases, hydrogen peroxide based. So when people tell you it's not a real cleaning method, that's just not true. It's used at a professional, even medical grade level. The only difference between what a hospital does and what you're doing in your hallway closet is scale and concentration. Real quick, because this is exactly the kind of thing people ask me for more of, the drain line trick is one fix. I've got a whole ebook, The Cheap Fix, that's basically a running list of these. The real problem, the real fix, and what it actually costs versus what contractors want to charge you. Links in the description if you want the rest of them. Which brings us to something you actually need to hear before you go pouring random chemicals into your HVAC system, because this next one can genuinely mess up your system if you get it wrong. There's a version of this hack floating around online where people go buy 35% food-grade hydrogen peroxide, thinking stronger automatically means better. It does not. That concentration is industrial strength, it's caustic, and it can actually eat away at plastic drain pans and degrade rubber gaskets in your system over time, the exact opposite of what you're trying to do. The standard 3% brown bottle stuff from the pharmacy is the one that's actually appropriate for a residential system. And while we're on the subject of do-it-yourself chemical hacks gone wrong, citric acid is another one people love to recommend as a natural cleaner. But at higher concentrations, it can corrode aluminum dampers and eat through the zinc coating on your ductwork, which just speeds up rust. Natural doesn't automatically mean safe for your equipment, and that's a distinction a lot of do-it-yourself blogs conveniently skip over. Okay, next thing they don't want you thinking too hard about is duct sealing. This is one of the classic upsells that gets added onto a cleaning appointment once the tech is already standing in your house. They'll tell you your ducts are leaking air, show you a gap here or there, and suggest sealing the whole system with mastic or foil tape for a few $100 extra. Now sometimes duct leaks are real and worth fixing, especially in an older home, but this is exactly the kind of add-on that's easy to oversell once someone's already in your attic with a flashlight and you're standing there trusting their read on the situation. If a company brings this up, it's fair to ask for photos of the specific leak, not just a verbal, yeah, you've got some leakage up here. Then there's the UVC light upsell. This one's sneaky because it sounds like cutting-edge technology. Techs will offer to install a UVC light inside your ductwork that supposedly kills mold and bacteria as air passes through. Sounds futuristic, sounds impressive, except most residential UVC units actually emit measurable ozone, which is its own indoor air quality problem, and they can degrade wiring insulation near the unit over time. On top of that, they use extra electricity every single day of the year for a benefit that, for a typical healthy home, is marginal at best. It's a great sounding add-on. It's a lot less great once you actually look at what it's doing and what it's costing you every month on your power bill. Now let's flip it for a second. Because I'm not trying to tell you duct cleaning is a total scam that never has a purpose. That wouldn't be honest, and I'd rather you actually know when this stuff is real. If you've got visible mold growing on the metal parts of your ductwork, if you found evidence of mice or insects actually living in there, or if dust and debris is visibly blowing out of your vents when the system kicks on, those are the 3 situations where the EPA itself says cleaning is worth doing. Also, if someone in your house has severe asthma or diagnosed allergies, or if you just had major renovation work done that kicked a ton of construction dust into your system, those are legitimate reasons too. The problem was never that duct cleaning can't ever be useful. The problem is companies selling it as a blanket. Everybody needs this every few years service, when the actual evidence says it's situational. One more thing before we wrap this up, because it's probably the most repeated claim in the entire industry, and it might be the shakiest one of all, the energy savings pitch. You've probably heard some version of this. Dirty ducts make your system work harder. Cleaning them will lower your energy bill. Sounds great, right? Who doesn't want a lower power bill? Except the EPA has specifically said there's no measurable evidence that duct cleaning creates real energy savings for a typical home. It's one of those claims that sounds so logical nobody questions it, but when you actually go looking for the data backing it up, there isn't much there. It's the kind of thing that gets repeated so often across the industry that it starts to feel like established fact, when really it's more of an established sales line. So here's the honest, big picture version of all this. Duct cleaning companies aren't running some elaborate criminal conspiracy. Most of them genuinely believe they're helping people. But the whole industry is built around convincing you your air is dirtier and more dangerous than it usually is, using fear about your family's health to sell a service that, for most homes, the government's own indoor air quality experts say doesn't have strong evidence behind it. Meanwhile, the actual source of that musty smell that started this whole spiral for you is very likely a $2 tube of plastic you've never once looked at, and the fix for it is sitting in your medicine cabinet right now. But before you go, there's a whole other layer to this industry that most people never even think to question, and it starts with the quote itself. A lot of these companies advertise a number online that sounds almost too good to be true, like $89 for whole home duct cleaning. That number is designed to get the phone ringing, not to reflect what you'll actually pay. Here's another one that trips people up constantly, and it's honestly kind of a genius mix-up on the industry's part. Duct cleaning and dryer vent cleaning get bundled together in people's minds like they're the same service, and they are not. Your dryer vent is a completely separate system from your HVAC ductwork, and unlike the duct cleaning debate, dryer vent buildup is a legitimately serious fire risk. Lint accumulation in dryer vents causes thousands of house fires every year, according to consumer safety data, and that's one area where regular cleaning actually is backed by real numbers, not marketing copy. The problem is some companies use that real, scary statistic to build trust, and then pivot straight into upselling you on the unrelated duct cleaning that doesn't have anywhere near that same evidence behind it. So next time someone brings up house fires to sell you a duct package, ask them directly whether they're talking about your dryer vent or your HVAC ducts, because those are two completely different services with two completely different risk levels. Now here's one that sounds almost too dramatic to be true, but it happens more than you'd think, especially in older homes, the asbestos scare. If your house was built before the late 70s or early 80s, some texts will casually mention that older duct insulation or wrap could contain asbestos, plant that seed of fear, and then recommend an inspection or abatement service that costs thousands more than the original cleaning job. Sometimes that concern is legitimate and worth taking seriously, but it's also become a well-known pressure tactic, specifically because asbestos is scary enough that most homeowners won't push back or ask questions. They'll just say yes to whatever makes the risk go away. If this comes up, the right move is to get an independent inspection from a certified asbestos testing company that has zero financial stake in whether you book a cleaning, not from the same company that's trying to sell you the fix. There's also the manufacturer warranty myth, which gets used to create urgency out of nothing. Some texts will tell you that skipping regular duct cleaning could void your HVAC system's manufacturer warranty. For the vast majority of residential systems, that's simply not true. Warranties are almost always tied to proper installation and routine equipment maintenance, like changing your filters and getting your actual unit serviced, not to how often your ductwork specifically gets cleaned. If a company brings up your warranty as a reason to book today, ask them to show you the exact clause in your manufacturer's documentation that says that. 9 times out of 10, they can't, because it doesn't exist. And don't sleep on the marketing calendar either. Notice how duct cleaning ads seem to spike right before allergy season hits, or right at the start of spring cleaning, complete with countdown timers on their website for a limited time discount. That urgency is manufactured. Dust and allergens don't actually spike in your ductwork on a seasonal marketing schedule, but fear about allergies absolutely does, and that's exactly the emotional trigger these campaigns are built around. One last thing worth knowing before you ever book anyone for this kind of work: a lot of duct cleaning companies you find online are actually just booking platforms or loosely run franchises that dispatch whichever subcontractor is available that day, with wildly inconsistent vetting standards between technicians. Before anyone comes to your house, it's worth asking for their NADCA certification number directly and actually looking it up, confirming they carry liability insurance, and getting the full price in writing before they start any work. It takes about 5 extra minutes, and it's the single easiest way to filter out the operators running these exact scripts from the ones doing honest, straightforward work. At this point, you know more about how this industry actually operates than most people who've had this service done 5 separate times. That's the whole game with stuff like this. It's never really about the specific chemical or the specific tube behind your air handler. It's about knowing enough to ask one more question before you hand someone your card. Now look, figuring out which of these tricks actually apply to your specific setup, what to check first, what's worth paying a professional for versus what you can knock out yourself in 10 minutes with stuff you already own, that's exactly the kind of thing I put together in one place. I built an entire ebook called The Cheap Fix that walks through the real, low-cost fixes for problems contractors love to upsell you on. The link is in the description. And if you found even one thing in this video useful, hit subscribe right now, because the next one drops before you know it, and it might just save you way more than this one did.